Hey everyone, Rencat here. So I just saw the original Blair Witch Project. Now I watched this because there's a new Blair Witch Project coming out, I guess. The third one in this weird trilogy. Now if you're wondering, no, I've never seen the original movie, and this gave me a good excuse to actually, finally watch it. And no, I'm not going to watch the second one, because, yeah.
On October 27th, forget everything you've heard. Forget everything you've seen. Because this time, the truth is scarier than fiction.
But, spoiler, I really enjoyed this movie, actually. And it's kind of strange looking back on it right now, because if you look, this movie is one of the highest rated movies on any movie review site that you can find, but it's also nominated for 2 Razzies for Worst Actress and Worst Picture of the Year. So how does a movie like this get such amazing reviews and then also get Razzie nominations? There's kind of a weird separation there. But for me, I really enjoyed this movie, and I'll tell you why. This movie is not really scary, per se, and I think that's mainly why a lot of people don't like this, is because it's not really a scary movie, but it is very unsettling. And that's what it's going for, if you ask me. I don't think it wants to scare you. I think it wants to make you nervous, makes you uneasy, and it accomplishes that very, very well. That has a lot to do with the camera work, the cast, and the directors, believe it or not. The cast was a lot of unknowns. They still are, because they didn't really go anywhere with their career. Neither did the directors, as a matter of fact. This is the only movie that they really did well in, or the only movie that was commercially successful for them. The documentary-esque found footage approach was something brand new at the time. It hadn't really been attempted on a large format or large scale as this had been. And that gave it a natural quality to it. And the acting from these unknown people really helped sell that natural, simplistic kind of style that this movie has. And that's why it made it all the more unsettling for me. One thing I heard that the directors would do is that at night, when they were supposed to do a frightening scene, they wouldn't tell the actors what they were going to do or when they were going to be woken up.
And they were setting up, sound loops of babies crying and kids laughing outside at 10 and 4 in the morning.
Basically, it was just us running through trees and going nuts out there in the complete darkness.
So their reactions to everything were a lot more natural. They didn't know what was going on. They had no clue, just like the characters in this film. And let's talk about the characters a little bit. The 3 characters that we have in this film really aren't that interesting. But that's not the point of this movie. The point of this movie is to display a psychological drama, almost. It shows these 3 characters having mental breakdowns in this woods and watching their psyches just slowly deteriorate is their character. In a movie like this, it's very, very difficult to give people character. The film never really stopped and then said, okay, this is this person's backstory, this is what this person loves doing, this is what this person blah, 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 blah. And that was one of my main issues with my recent review of The Suicide Squad, is that it did that. For 20 minutes, it sat you down, the audience down, and said, okay, this is what this character is, this is what they do, this is who they are. All right, next character, this is what they do, this is who they are, and it just talks to the audience. And that was one of my biggest issues with that, is that it was telling you how you were supposed to feel about these characters. It was telling you how you were supposed to look at them. But this film doesn't do that. It starts off showing a little bit of their documentary. It shows them going around town talking about the Blair Witch myth, all the things that pertain to that, and what the witch is, all this and that and this and that. But it never really tells you about the characters, because that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is this psychological breakdown that we watch unfold between the 3 characters. And while there is basic character to help you get into the mindset of these people, it's never a complex thriller like, per se. The Hunt is. So that was kind of an issue where I wish I could have gotten more involved with the characters. I really loved what they did with them and how we were able to watch them slowly just fall apart. And that was my favorite part of this movie. It wasn't the scares, it wasn't the unsettling things that happens. It was watching these people just break down. And that was one thing that the original Blair Witch Project did so well, is that it felt like it was these three people going through an event, and we were not supposed to be watching it, but we were. But let's talk about the scares that happen in this movie. Now, not a lot happens. The only things that mainly happen are at night. A couple of twigs break, you hear something off in the distance, something gets on the tent. So not a whole lot scary happens. So why is it so effective? Why I think it's so effective is because we don't know anything about this witch. But we don't see the witch, and all that we know about her are the basic things that the townspeople said at the beginning of the film. As the characters go into the woods to finish their documentary, and they don't know what's going on, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what this witch is. You don't know if it's her. You don't know what she can do. You don't know what she is capable of. So when things start happening, it gives this sense of unpredictability, which is very rare these days. As things start to happen, you don't know what's going to happen. You have no clue what's going to happen because you don't know anything about this witch character. One thing about the latest horror train wreck, Lights Out, was that it gave too much about its villain. It gave way too much about its villain. And because it did that, it became much less effective.
Did we wake you?
She was like a mental patient, and then she exploded and became this ghost lady, but she could only move in darkness, but sometimes she could move in light. Like, she had too many rules. And when you put rules onto a character in a movie, and when they don't follow those rules, suddenly things can't be effective. When you have a character that has no rules, you don't see them, you don't know anything about them, then suddenly everything that happens is slightly more frightening because you have that sense of unrest. You want to constantly figure out what she's doing, where she is, what's going on, and it is very unsettling. It's not, like I said, it's not like edge of your seat, conjuring scary, but it is very effective in what it does. That's what I loved about this movie, is that it understands that less is more. It understands that the less you see about this villain, the less you know about the characters, the less you know about the world that they live in, the more effective it all can be. You can get into the mindsets, you can get involved in the movie and try and figure things out and piece things together on your own, and it becomes a much more intriguing, a much more compelling and unsettling film than Lights Out. Because Lights Out has so many rules, and it breaks those rules so consistently that how can you be scared of something? It just doesn't feel real. That's why Blair Witch Project is such a great film, is because everything it does feels real. It feels genuine. Every part of this movie does a fantastic job. Many people talk about the ending and how scary it is, and for me, that was kind of underwhelming. Now, the whole movie was this psychological breakdown that was very compelling to watch, and when we hit the ending, we all know the standing in the corner bit and how it's Blair Witching or whatever, but it was very underwhelming. I was genuinely tense watching the sequence, but when it ended, it was so abrupt and out of nowhere that it wasn't effective for me. As I finished it, I kind of got the feeling like, that movie was very unsatisfying. And at first, I didn't really like it, but the more I dwelt on it, the more I thought about it and put things together, the more I really did enjoy it, and the more that I would really recommend watching it. And even though the ending isn't really that great, and the characters really aren't that great, and you can't really get involved in them, it's so easy to get involved in this movie, and that's why I love it, and that's why it's one of my favorite horror movies out there, is because it's real, it's genuine, it's frightening, it's unsettling, and it does so many things so well that it started a genre that is now just crap. Nothing that comes out of found footage is good at all, because it takes the tropes that Blair Witch sets up and then just recycles them. It doesn't put anything new to them, it doesn't spin them in a clever way, it just takes those tropes and puts them in their movie, even though the reason that the Blair Witch started this genre is because it did those tropes very, very well. And I would highly recommend this movie. And if I was to give it a rating, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. So definitely check this one out. And hopefully the new Blair Witch Project is as good as this one, although I tend to doubt it. But Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.